Princess Kira stood at the observation deck of the Zalthari flagship, watching the human vessel approach through the void. Her 3 hearts hammered in her chest. The end of her freedom, sold to prevent a war her people could not win. The humans had crushed the Vordian Empire in 6 months. 6 months to dismantle a civilization that had ruled 40 star systems for 3,000 years. The Zalthari Council had seen the recordings. Human ships moving in patterns that defied physics. Human soldiers walking through plasma fire that should have vaporized them. And the casualties, always the casualties, stacked so high that entire worlds surrendered rather than face them. So the Council had chosen diplomacy. A marriage alliance. Her marriage. Your Highness, the human delegation is aboard, her advisor Zen whispered. His silver skin had gone pale, his eye stalks twitching with barely concealed terror. Kira straightened her spine, all 4 arms clasped behind her back in formal posture. She was 4th in line to the throne. Expendable. But she would face this with dignity. The airlock door hissed open. The human who entered was nothing like she expected. Average height, maybe 6 feet in human measurements. Brown hair kept short. Green eyes that seemed almost gentle. He wore a simple uniform, dark blue with minimal decorations. No weapons she could see. No armor. No signs of the monster who had reportedly torn through a Vordian battle station with just a combat knife. Princess Kira, he said, his voice surprisingly soft. He executed a bow that her cultural database marked as respectful. She blinked all 6 eyes in surprise. An acknowledgement of the awkwardness. Most diplomatic marriages pretended this was an honor. Colonel Morrison, she replied, using the rank her intelligence had provided. I will fulfill my obligations to my people. I know you will, he said. Something in his tone made her look at him more carefully. There was sadness there. Understanding. For what it's worth, I'll try to make this as painless as possible. You'll have your own quarters. Your own staff. I won't demand anything beyond public appearances. Kira felt something crack in her chest. Kindness. She had expected a conqueror, a savage human warrior who would treat her as a trophy. Instead, she found someone who seemed as trapped as she was. The wedding ceremony took place 3 days later aboard a neutral station. Representatives from 20 species attended. The humans sent a small delegation, just 5 officers in dress uniforms. The Zalthari Council filled an entire gallery, watching to ensure she completed her duty. Jake stood beside her at the altar, his hand gentle when they exchanged the traditional crystals. He spoke the vows in flawless Zalthari, his pronunciation better than most natives. She stumbled through the human words, her translator helping with the complex sounds. When it was done, they were married. 2 strangers bound together to prevent billions of deaths. The reception was tense. Zalthari officials mingled with human officers, everyone hyper-aware of the fragile peace this union represented. Kira stood beside Jake, playing her role, smiling when appropriate. You're doing great, Jake murmured during a quiet moment. I know this is harder for you than me. Why? Why do you say that? She asked. Because I volunteered, he said simply. You didn't get a choice. Before she could respond, alarms screamed throughout the station. The lights shifted to emergency red. A Zalthari security officer rushed to her side. Your Highness, we have a situation. Vordian raiders. They've breached the station. Kira's blood went cold. The Vordians, the same species humanity had nearly exterminated. They would see this wedding as the ultimate betrayal. The Zalthari siding with their enemies. Jake's entire demeanor changed. The gentleman vanished, replaced by something else. Something that made her survival instincts scream. How many? He asked, his voice now flat and cold. Sensors show 40 warriors. They're heading for this section. Jake nodded once. He turned to his fellow human officers. They moved in perfect synchronization. No words needed. Princess, stay here, Jake said. Lock the doors behind us. What are you going to do? He looked at her. And for the first time, she saw what had terrified the Vortian Empire. His eyes had gone hard as diamond. His stance had shifted into something predatory. My job, he said. Then he walked out to face 40 Vortian warriors with just 4 other humans. Kira ignored his command and followed to the observation screens. What she saw would haunt her forever, and change everything she thought she knew about the man she had married. The Vortians came through the corridor in formation, their battle armor gleaming, plasma rifles charged. They were 8 feet tall, heavily muscled, with reflexes 3 times faster than standard humanoids. Elite warriors, each one capable of taking on a dozen regular soldiers. The 5 humans stood in the corridor wearing dress uniforms. No armor, no heavy weapons. Jake had somehow acquired a simple combat knife. One of his companions held a piece of rebar torn from a wall panel. The others had nothing but their hands. The Vortian commander laughed, the sound booming through the station's speakers. The great human warriors. You look so small. So weak. Jake said nothing. He simply started walking forward. The Vortians opened fire. Plasma bolts filled the corridor, enough firepower to slag a tank. But Jake wasn't there anymore. He moved like liquid, like something that existed between seconds. The bolts passed through empty air where he should have been. Then he was among them. What happened next defied everything Kira understood about combat. Jake moved with a precision that seemed impossible. Every strike went exactly where it needed to go. A knife thrust through an armor joint, an elbow that shattered a faceplate, a kick that sent a Vortian warrior flying backward into his companions. The other humans moved with the same impossible grace. They flowed through the Vortian formation like water through cracks. Each movement, economical, deadly, perfect. A Vortian swung a powered blade at Jake's head. He ducked under it, stepped inside the warrior's guard, and drove his knife up through the weak point beneath the jaw. The Vortian dropped. Another fired point blank. Jake twisted, the bolt passing so close it burned his uniform. His hand shot out, crushed the warrior's throat through the armor collar, moved on before the body fell. They fought like gravity itself bent to their will. Like time moved differently for them. The Vortians, trained from birth for war, couldn't land a single hit. The humans danced through their attacks, leaving bodies in their wake. Kira watched Jake grab a Vortian by the arm, use the warrior's own momentum to slam him into the wall with such force the metal buckled. Watched him dodge 3 simultaneous attacks, his body moving in ways that should have been anatomically impossible. The fight lasted 4 minutes. When it ended, 40 Vortian warriors lay dead or dying. The 5 humans stood untouched, barely breathing hard. Jake wiped his knife clean on a fallen warrior's cloak. His expression hadn't changed. Cold, distant, utterly calm. Then he looked up at the observation camera, looked directly at where Kira was watching. For a moment, their eyes met through the screen. She saw the question there, saw him wondering if she was afraid of him now, if she understood what she had married. Kira's hands were shaking, not from fear, from awe. The gentleman who had spoken kindly to her, who had promised to make this arrangement painless, was the same person who had just moved through elite warriors like they were standing still. The same person who had helped destroy an empire. Security teams arrived to secure the area. Medical teams rushed to check the humans for injuries. Found none. The station commander appeared, stammering apologies and gratitude. Jake simply nodded, said something about securing the perimeter, and walked back toward the reception hall. When he entered, blood spattered on his dress uniform, knife still in his hand. The room fell silent. Every species represented took an involuntary step back. Every species, except Kira. She walked toward him, her people watching in shock. Jake stopped, his expression guarded. "I'm sorry you had to see that." "Don't be," Kira said quietly. She reached out with one hand, carefully took the knife from him. You protected everyone here. Protected me. Something shifted in his eyes. The cold warrior receded, and she saw glimpses of the gentle man again. It's what I do, he said simply. I know that now, she replied. She looked at this human, this contradiction of kindness and violence, and felt something unexpected. Not fear, not even gratitude. Curiosity. She wanted to understand him. This warrior, who spoke softly. This killer, who had treated her with respect. This man, who was now her husband. When we get home, she said slowly, I would like you to teach me. Teach you what? Everything, Kira said. I want to understand how humans fight, how you move like that, how you become something more than yourselves. Jake studied her for a long moment. Then, for the first time since the attack, he smiled. It was small, tired, but genuine. All right, he said. I can do that. Around them, the reception slowly resumed. Diplomats returned to their careful conversations. Musicians started playing again. The fragile peace held, reinforced now by the demonstration of what would happen to anyone who threatened it. But Kira barely noticed. She stood beside her husband, this stranger who had become something more in the span of 4 minutes, and wondered what other surprises humanity held. She had married him to secure peace. She was beginning to suspect she had gotten far more than she bargained for. The journey to Earth took 2 weeks. Kira spent most of it in her assigned quarters, a spacious suite on the human transport ship Valiant. True to his word, Jake had given her privacy, her own space. He visited once a day to check on her needs, always polite, always respectful, but she couldn't stop thinking about what she'd seen on the station. Her people had records of human combat, of course, battle footage from the Vortian War, but watching recordings was different from seeing it in person. From feeling the air pressure change as Jake moved, from hearing the sounds of impact, from watching impossible things become real. On the 5th day, she found him in the ship's training room at 0400 hours. The facility was empty, except for him. He wore simple exercise clothes, moving through what looked like a practice routine. No weapons, just movement. Kira activated the room's observation mode and watched. Jake flowed from stance to stance, his body moving with the same liquid grace she'd seen in combat. But this was slower, more deliberate. She could see the patterns now, the way he shifted his weight, the precise angles of each strike and block. He knew she was watching. His eyes flicked to the observation window once, acknowledged her presence, continued. When he finished, she entered the room. You're up early, Jake said, grabbing a towel. I don't sleep much anymore, Kira admitted. I keep thinking about the station. He nodded. Adrenaline crash. It'll pass. How do you do it? She asked. Move like that. Fight like that. Jake considered the question. It's complicated. Part training. Part human physiology. Part something we don't fully understand ourselves. I want to learn. I know. I haven't forgotten my promise. He gestured to the training mats. But you need to understand something first. What you saw on the station, that's the end result of years of preparation. Humans don't start out that way. Then how do they start? With the basics. Jake moved to the center of the mat. Fighting isn't about strength or speed. It's about understanding how bodies move, how force transfers, how to read an opponent. Your people are stronger than humans, faster. But you fight in straight lines, he demonstrated, throwing a punch directly forward. Predictable, he said. Easy to counter, if you know how. He shifted slightly, and suddenly his body was at an angle, the punch missing an imaginary target. Humans learn to fight curved. We don't meet force with force. We redirect it. Kira stepped onto the mat. Show me. Over the next hour, Jake walked her through basic concepts. How to stand to maintain balance. How to move her center of gravity. How to turn defense into offense. He was patient, correcting her stance with gentle touches, demonstrating each technique multiple times. Your people have 4 arms, he noted. That's actually an advantage, if you use it right. Humans had to learn to make 2 arms do the work of 4. You can defend and attack simultaneously, in ways we can't. She tried a combination he'd shown her. Felt it click into place. Something about the movement felt right. Natural. Good, Jake said. You're a fast learner. They met every morning after that. Hour-long sessions where he taught her the foundations of human combat arts. Kira absorbed everything, her analytical mind cataloging techniques, patterns, philosophies. But more than that, she learned about Jake. He was careful never to hurt her during practice. His touches were professional, impersonal. But sometimes, when he demonstrated a technique, she saw flashes of the warrior from the station, the cold precision, the absolute control. Where did you learn all this? She asked one morning. Military training, he said. But the real education came from combat. You learn fast when your life depends on it. How many battles have you fought? He paused. Too many. Do you ever regret it? Jake looked at her directly. Every day. But regret doesn't change necessity. Someone had to stop the Vordians. Someone had to make sure they didn't burn through the galaxy. That someone was us. At what cost? Higher than anyone should pay, he said quietly. Humans are good at war, princess. Too good. It's not something we're proud of. Kira understood then. The sadness she'd seen in him at their first meeting. He carried the weight of every battle, every death. He was a weapon that understood its own terrible purpose. Why did you volunteer for this marriage? She asked. Because I wanted to be part of the peace, Jake said. I've spent 10 years fighting. I wanted to help build something instead of destroying it. The honesty in his voice made her chest ache. They arrived at Earth on schedule. Kira's first glimpse of the human homeworld came through the viewport of the Valiant. Blue and green, white clouds swirling across the surface. Beautiful, in a wild, untamed way. It's smaller than I expected, she said. Gravity's higher than most inhabited worlds, Jake explained. Humans evolved in a harsher environment than most species. It made us dense, muscular. Our bone structure is reinforced to handle the pressure. That explained some of their combat advantage. Higher gravity meant stronger muscles, faster reflexes to compensate. The landing was smooth. A delegation waited at the spaceport. Human officials in formal attire. Kira stepped off the ship into Earth's gravity and immediately felt the difference. Heavier, pressing down on her. Her people evolved on a lighter world. This would take adjustment. Jake noticed her discomfort. We can get you a gravity compensator, if you need one. No, Kira said firmly. If I'm going to live here, I should adapt. He smiled. Spoken like a warrior. The official residence Jake had been assigned was outside the capital, a sprawling estate with gardens and privacy. Kira's staff had arrived ahead of them, already settling into their quarters. The human servants were polite, efficient, keeping appropriate distance. Jake showed her the main house himself. Your wing is here. Mine is on the opposite side. Shared spaces in the middle. I meant what I said about privacy. I appreciate that, Kira said. Then, surprising herself, she added, but I'd like to continue our training sessions. If you're willing. Of course, Jake said. There's a training facility in the lower level. We can set a schedule. They fell into a routine. Mornings were for combat training. Jake pushed her harder now, introducing more advanced techniques. She struggled with Earth's gravity at first, but adapted quickly. Her 4 arms became a genuine advantage once she learned to coordinate them properly. Afternoons were for diplomatic functions. Meeting human officials, attending events, playing the role of the alien princess married to a human hero. Kira found these tedious, but necessary. Every appearance reinforced the peace between their peoples. Evenings were quiet. Sometimes she and Jake ate dinner together, talking about nothing important. Sometimes they maintained their separate spaces. It was comfortable. This strange arrangement, almost friendship. 3 weeks after arriving on Earth, everything changed. Kira woke to alarms blaring through the estate. Jake appeared at her door within seconds. Already dressed. A sidearm in his hand. "What's happening?" she demanded. "Breach at the eastern perimeter," he said. "Unknown hostiles. My security team is responding. I'm coming with you. Princess, you should stay here where it's safe." "I've been training for 3 weeks," Kira said. "I can help." Jake looked at her, seemed to make a decision. "Stay close. Do exactly what I say." They moved through the house together. Jake's security team, 4 humans in tactical gear, met them in the main hall. "Sir, we have visual on the hostiles. They're not Vordian. They're human." Jake's expression went cold. "Human?" "Yes, sir. 12 armed individuals, military-grade equipment. They're demanding you surrender the princess." Kira felt ice in her veins. Humans attacking humans. Extremists opposed to the alliance, perhaps. Or bounty hunters looking to ransom her. "Get her to the safe room," Jake ordered. "No," Kira said. "This isn't training," Jake said. "These are professionals with lethal weapons. Then we'd better not waste time arguing." She shot back. For a moment, Jake just stared at her. Then he laughed. A short, sharp sound. "All right. But you follow my lead." "Understood?" "Understood." Jake turned to his team. "Standard defensive protocol. Non-lethal if possible. These are humans. They deserve a chance to surrender." The team moved into position. Kira followed Jake to the estate's security center. Monitors showed the attackers advancing through the grounds, moving with tactical precision. "They're good," Jake muttered. "Former military, probably. Someone paid them a lot to do this. Can your team stop them?" "Yes," Jake said simply, no doubt in his voice. "But I'd rather resolve this without bloodshed, if possible." He activated the estate's external speakers. "This is Colonel Jake Morrison. You're trespassing on protected diplomatic property. Stand down, and you'll be allowed to leave." The lead attacker laughed. "We're not here for you, Morrison. Give us the alien, and we'll go." "That's not happening." "Then we do this the hard way." The attackers opened fire on the main house. Jake's security team returned fire, using cover, falling into practiced patterns. But the attackers had numbers and heavy weapons. "They're trying to suppress us while a second team flanks," Jake said, watching the monitors. "There. 3. Breaking off toward the west wing, where my quarters are," Kira realized. "They want to grab you during the confusion." Jake grabbed a rifle from the weapons locker. "Can't let that happen." They moved through the house, Jake leading, Kira following. Her hearts pounded, but her training kept her focused. Breathe. Stay balanced. Watch for threats. The 3 attackers breached through a window ahead. They saw Jake and Kira, raised their weapons. Jake moved. Kira had seen him fight before, but this was different. He wasn't trying to kill. Every shot he fired went into legs, shoulders, weapon hands, disabling strikes. The attackers went down screaming but alive. Then more came. The main force, realizing their flanking team had failed. They poured into the house, at least 8 of them, firing on full automatic. Jake pulled Kira behind a support column, shielded her with his body as bullets chewed through walls. "When I move, you move," he said. "Stay low. Follow my exact path." He burst from cover, moving in that impossible way. Kira followed, trying to match his movements. She wasn't as fast, wasn't as smooth, but her training held. She stayed in his wake, using the paths he created. Jake dropped 3 attackers in seconds. Kira surprised herself by taking down a 4th, using a joint lock Jake had taught her, slamming the human into a wall. The attacker went limp. The remaining attackers fell back, regrouping. Jake used the moment to pull Kira into a more defensible position. "You did good," he said. Before she could respond, an explosion rocked the house. The attackers had breached the wall, creating a new entry point. "They're committed," Jake said. "They're not leaving without you or a fight to the death." "Then let's give them a fight," Kira said. Jake looked at her, and she saw pride in his eyes. "All right. But remember your training. Fast is slow. Slow is smooth. Smooth is fast." She nodded, understanding the paradox. "Don't rush. Don't panic. Move with precision." The attackers came through the breach. Jake met them head-on, and Kira fought beside him. She used everything he'd taught her. Redirected an attacker's momentum, sent him stumbling into his companion, blocked a rifle strike with 2 arms, countered with the other 2. Her movements weren't as perfect as Jake's, but they worked. Together, they held the line. Jake's security team arrived from behind, catching the attackers in a crossfire. The fight ended quickly after that. The surviving attackers surrendered, dropping their weapons. When the chaos settled, 12 attackers were in custody. None dead, though several would need medical attention. Jake's team had taken 1 casualty, non-critical. Kira stood in the wreckage of the house, breathing hard, her hands shaking from adrenaline. Jake approached, checking her for injuries. "You're sure you're okay?" "I'm fine," she said. "You?" "I'm always fine," he said. But she could hear the exhaustion in his voice. Human authorities arrived within the hour. They took the attackers into custody, began their investigation. Preliminary reports suggested a fringe political group opposed to alien integration. They'd hired mercenaries to kidnap Kira, planning to use her as leverage against the Alliance. They'd failed spectacularly. News of the attack spread quickly. By morning, every major outlet was covering it. Video footage from the estate's security system showed Kira fighting alongside Jake, showed her taking down armed attackers. The reaction was immediate and unexpected. Humans saw an alien princess defending her new home, saw her standing beside her husband against impossible odds, saw courage and determination. The Zalthari saw their princess proving she was worthy of her bloodline, saw her adapting, learning, becoming something more. Kira became a symbol overnight. Not a political hostage, not a sacrifice for peace. A warrior princess who had earned her place through action. Jake found her in the gardens that evening, looking at the stars. "How are you holding up?" he asked. "I'm not sure," Kira admitted. "Everything feels different now. Combat does that, changes your perspective. It's not just the combat," she said. "It's everything. When I came here, I thought I was just fulfilling a duty, a political arrangement. But now, Jake prompted gently. "Now I don't know what this is anymore," Kira said. "We're not just allies, not just partners in a political marriage. We fought together. We trusted each other with our lives." Jake was quiet for a moment. "For what it's worth, I don't see you as a political necessity anymore either." "What do you see me as?" "A friend," Jake said simply. "Maybe more, if you wanted. But no pressure. This arrangement is whatever you want it to be." Kira turned to look at him. In the garden lights, she could see the scars on his hands, the tired lines around his eyes. A warrior who had seen too much, done too much, but also a man who had been nothing but kind to her, who had taught her to defend herself, who had shielded her with his own body. "I think I'd like to find out what more means," she said quietly. Jake smiled, genuine and warm. "Yeah," Kira confirmed. He offered his hand. She took it with one of hers, feeling the warmth of his skin, the strength in his grip. Above them, stars glittered. 2 species, 2 people, finding common ground in the strangest of circumstances. The peace held. And maybe, just maybe, something real was beginning. The attempted kidnapping changed everything, but not in the way Kira expected. Instead of creating fear or division, It galvanized support for the human Zalthari alliance. Images of Kira fighting beside Jake circulated through both civilizations. She became proof that the alliance could work, that different species could truly stand together. But it also painted a target on their backs. Jake increased security at the estate. His team expanded from 4 to 12. All veterans of the Vordian War. They ran drills, established protocols, turned the grounds into a defensible position. Kira continued her training, now with even more intensity. The attack had shown her the gap between practice and real combat. She needed to close that gap. "You're pushing yourself too hard," Jake said one morning, watching her work through a complex kata. She'd been training for 3 hours straight, her movements getting sloppy from exhaustion. "I need to be better," Kira said, executing a strike combination. "If there's another attack, I can't be a liability." "You weren't a liability last time," Jake pointed out. "You held your own against trained soldiers." "Barely," Kira countered. "I got lucky. They weren't expecting resistance from me." Jake stepped onto the mat. "Take a break. You're going to hurt yourself." "I'm fine, princess," he said, his tone firm. "Rest is part of training. Your body needs time to recover, to build muscle memory. Pushing through exhaustion teaches bad habits." Kira stopped, breathing hard. She knew he was right, but the fear from the attack still gnawed at her. The feeling of helplessness, of needing Jake to protect her. "I don't want to be weak," she said quietly. Jake's expression softened. "You're not weak. You're one of the strongest people I know. You're just saying that. I'm really not." He moved closer. "Strength isn't just about fighting. It's about adapting. You left everything you knew, came to an alien world, learned a completely new way of combat in 3 weeks. You stood your ground when armed professionals came for you. That takes courage most people don't have." Kira looked at him, saw the sincerity in his eyes. "You really believe that?" "I know it," Jake said. "Come on. Let's get breakfast. Then we can review the security footage from the attack. Analyze what worked and what didn't. That's how you improve. Study, practice, rest. Repeat." Over breakfast, they watched the footage together. Jake paused at key moments, explaining tactical decisions. "Here," he said, pointing to a moment where Kira had hesitated before engaging. "You're thinking too much. Combat has to be instinctive. Your training should take over." "How do I make it instinctive?" "Repetition. But smart repetition. We'll work on scenario training. Put you in situations where you have to react without thinking." They spent the next week doing exactly that. Jake's security team helped, running drills where Kira had to respond to simulated attacks. At first, she struggled, her analytical mind getting in the way. But gradually, her body learned to respond before her brain could interfere. She was improving. She could feel it. But the universe had other plans. The call came at midnight. Jake's communicator blared, dragging them both from sleep. Kira heard him answer in the next room, heard his voice go sharp and cold. She was dressed and at his door within minutes. Jake emerged, already in tactical gear. "We have a situation." "What kind of situation?" "The Vordians," he said. "They've massed a fleet at the edge of neutral space. 300 ships. They're demanding reparations for the war, threatening to attack human colonies if we don't comply." Kira's blood went cold. 300 ships. The Vordian Empire at its height had commanded 500. This was most of their remaining strength. What are the humans going to do? "Meet them," Jake said. "Show them why starting another war would be a mistake." "You're going," Kira realized. "I'm being recalled to active duty. I leave in 2 hours. I'm 2. I'm different. I'm being recalled. I leave in 2 hours." Something twisted in Kira's chest. "How big is the human response fleet?" Jake met her eyes. 50 against 300? Kira's voice pitched higher. "That's suicide. That's a message." Jake corrected. "The Vordians need to understand. That numbers don't matter. They need to see what happens when you threaten humanity. You could die. I could. Jake agreed. But I won't. We're very good at not dying. He said it with such casual confidence that Kira wanted to shake him. But she'd seen him fight. Seen impossible things become reality. Maybe he was right. I'm coming with you, she said. No, Jake said immediately. This is a military operation. I'm a symbol of the Alliance, Kira argued. The Vordians see me as a traitor for marrying you. My presence will enrage them. Make them reckless. Exactly. Everything is dangerous, Kira shot back. You taught me to fight. Let me use those skills. They argued for 10 minutes. Jake listed every reason it was a bad idea. Kira countered every one. Finally, exhausted, he threw up his hands. Fine. But you follow military protocols. You're embedded as a diplomatic observer. Nothing more. Agreed, Kira said. She lied, of course. She had no intention of staying out of the fight if it came to that. The human fleet assembled at Rally Point Delta, 50 ships hanging in the void. Kira had expected massive warships, dreadnoughts bristling with weapons. Instead, she saw sleek destroyers, fast frigates, ships built for speed and maneuverability. Where are your big guns? She asked Jake aboard the command ship. Humans don't fight with big guns, he explained. We fight with precision. Those Vordian ships are slow, heavily armored. They're designed to take and deal massive damage in long slugging matches. And human ships? We're designed to avoid being hit in the first place, Jake said. Speed, agility, overwhelming firepower, delivered exactly where it hurts most. The Vordian fleet appeared on sensors. 300 ships indeed, arranged in the traditional battle formation. Massive. Imposing. They broadcast a message, their commander's voice booming through space. Humans, you have 3 hours to transmit coordinates for resource transfers. Fail to comply, and we will begin destroying your colonies. The human admiral, a woman named Patricia Hayes, broadcast a response. Negative. The war is over. We will not pay reparations to an aggressor species. Disperse your fleet and return to your space, or face the consequences. You field 50 ships against 300. The Vordian commander laughed. You are in no position to make threats. Dong. 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 We destroyed your empire with less, Admiral Hayes replied calmly. Want to see us do it again? The Vordians charged. 300 ships, engines burning bright, accelerating toward the human fleet in a massive wall of metal and firepower. The human fleet split. Kira watched on the tactical display as 50 ships broke into smaller groups, each moving in seemingly random directions. The Vordian formation tried to adjust. Couldn't track all the targets. Then the humans opened fire. It wasn't like any space battle Kira had seen before. There were no extended exchanges. No gradual wearing down of shields. Human ships moved in, unleashed devastating volleys at point-blank range into weak points, then accelerated away before return fire could track them. They moved like a school of fish, each ship aware of every other ship's position, flowing around enemy fire, concentrating their attacks with surgical precision. Jake stood at a tactical station, coordinating his squadron. He'd been given command of 12 ships, light frigates designed for hit-and-run attacks. Kira watched him work, saw the same cold focus he brought to hand-to-hand combat, now applied on a massive scale. Target the engine clusters, Jake ordered. Don't try to destroy them. Just disable. We want them dead in space. His ships moved in formation, impossibly tight, moving as one entity. They swept past a Vordian battlecruiser. Their weapons fire perfectly synchronized. The cruiser's engines exploded in a chain reaction. The ship went dark, drifting. Across the battlefield, the pattern repeated. Human ships dancing through the Vordian formation, leaving disabled vessels in their wake. The Vordians tried to adapt, tried to concentrate their fire. Create kill zones. The humans simply avoided those areas, struck from unexpected angles. Kira saw a human destroyer take a direct hit, its shields flaring. For a moment, she thought it was done. Then it accelerated through the impact, used the momentum to close distance with the Vortian ship that had fired, and unleashed a barrage that tore the enemy vessel in half. "They're insane," she whispered. "They're committed." Jake corrected, having heard her. Every human ship captain knows the cost of retreat, knows what the Vortians did during the war. This isn't just a battle, it's a promise. Attack us, and we will end you. The battle lasted 40 minutes. When it ended, 200 Vortian ships were disabled or destroyed. The remaining 100 retreated, their formation shattered. The human fleet had lost 3 ships, 3 out of 50. The Vortian commander broadcast a surrender. Agreed to all terms. Promised to disband the fleet. Admiral Hayes accepted, but added a warning. "Next time, we won't leave survivors. Remember that." The fleet returned to human space victorious. Kira stood on the observation deck with Jake, watching the stars. "That was incredible," she said. "I've never seen anything like it." "Humans had to get good at war," Jake said quietly. "Our homeworld was harsh. We evolved as persistence hunters, chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. That's how we fight in space too. We don't meet strength with strength. We exhaust it, outmaneuver it, outlast it. The galaxy is terrified of you," Kira said. "Good," Jake replied. "Fear prevents war. If everyone knows the cost of attacking humanity, they won't attack." That's what this was about. Not victory, deterrence. Kira understood. The human fleet could have destroyed all 300 Vortian ships. Instead, they disabled most. Sent a message. "We could kill you all, but we're choosing mercy. Don't make us choose differently." "I'm glad you're on our side," she said. Jake smiled. "Me too." They arrived back at Earth to celebrations. The Vortian threat was neutralized. The alliance was stronger than ever. Kira and Jake attended ceremony after ceremony, playing their roles as symbols of peace. But in private, things had shifted between them. The fear Kira had felt when Jake left for battle had clarified something. She cared about him, not as a political partner, as someone important, someone she didn't want to lose. She thought Jake felt the same. Saw it in the way he looked at her, the way his hand lingered when they touched. One evening, after a particularly tedious diplomatic function, they retreated to the estate's gardens. Kira had grown to love this place. The alien flowers, the strange earth insects, the peaceful silence. "I've been thinking," Jake said, breaking the quiet. "About what?" "About us," he said. "This started as a political arrangement, but it doesn't feel like that anymore. At least not to me." Kira's hearts beat faster. "It doesn't feel like that to me either. So what do we do about it?" She turned to face him fully. "What do you want to do about it?" Jake stepped closer. "I want to make this real. Not a marriage for peace. A marriage because we choose it. I choose it," Kira said without hesitation. "I choose you." He kissed her then, gentle and careful. Kira had 4 arms and used all of them, pulling him closer, feeling his warmth, his strength. When they broke apart, both were smiling. "So," Jake said, "we're doing this? For real?" "For real," Kira confirmed. They stood together in the garden, 2 warriors from different worlds, bound by choice instead of necessity. The peace they'd been forced to build had become something worth fighting for, something worth living for, and they would defend it together, whatever came next. 6 months passed in relative peace. Kira settled into life on Earth, became a fixture at diplomatic events, a bridge between species. She continued her combat training, now learning human military tactics and strategy. Jake taught her everything he knew, holding nothing back. Their relationship deepened. They were partners, in every sense, working together, training together, building a life together. The marriage that had started as political necessity became a genuine bond. But the universe, as always, had other plans. The distress signal came from Zalthari space. A colony world, Zalthar IV, had gone dark. No communications, no sensor readings, just silence. The Zalthari Council requested human assistance in investigating. They suspected Vordian raiders, remnants of the Empire seeking revenge. Jake was assigned to lead the mission. Kira, as a member of the Zalthari royal family, demanded to accompany him. "It's my people," she argued when Jake protested. "If something's happened to them, I need to be there." "That's exactly why you shouldn't go," Jake countered. "If this is Vordians, they'll target you specifically. Then I'll be useful bait," Kira said. "Come on, Jake. You've trained me for 6 months. Trust that training." He did trust it. That was the problem. He'd seen her skills improve dramatically, watched her become a formidable fighter. But training and real combat were different things, especially against Vordians. Still, he knew that look in her eyes. She was going, with or without his approval. "Fine," he relented. "But you stay with me at all times. No heroics." They took a small task force, 3 human ships with mixed human and Zalthari crews. The journey to Zalthar IV took 4 days. Kira spent the time reviewing intelligence on Vordian tactics, preparing for what they might find. When they arrived, the colony was indeed silent. No power readings, no life signs on sensors. The settlements were intact, but empty. "It's like everyone just vanished," the sensor officer reported. Jake ordered an away team. 20 humans and 10 Zalthari, all heavily armed. Kira insisted on joining, despite Jake's objections. They landed at the colony's main settlement. The streets were empty, buildings undamaged. No signs of battle. No bodies. "This is wrong," Jake muttered. "Even if they evacuated, there should be some trace. This is too clean." Quote, they spread out, searching buildings. Kira stayed close to Jake, her weapon ready. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the sound of their footsteps and breathing. Then they found the first body, a Zalthari colonist, hidden in a storage room. The cause of death wasn't immediately obvious. No wounds, no trauma. The body was fresh, dead for only a few hours. The medic examined it quickly. Some kind of poison. Affects the nervous system, causes paralysis, and then cardiac arrest. "Vordians don't use poison," Jake said. "They prefer direct violence." "Then who did this?" Kira asked. The answer came in the form of weapons fire from above. The team scattered as energy bolts rained down from the rooftops. Jake pulled Kira behind cover. "Contact!" Elevated positions, multiple shooters. The team returned fire. But the attackers had superior positioning. 2 Zalthari soldiers went down in the opening volley. "We need to move," Jake said. "That building, northeast. It has a defensible position." They ran, the team laying down covering fire. More bolts found their marks. Another soldier fell. Then another. They made it to the building, a solid structure with limited entry points. Jake's team secured the doors, established firing positions at the windows. "Report," Jake ordered. 6 casualties. 4 dead, 2 wounded. Enemy force estimated at 30 to 40. "And still no visual on who they are," Jake growled. He tried the communicator. "Base, this is Morrison. We're under attack at the colony. Request immediate support." Static. No response. "They're jamming us," the communications officer said. Kira looked out the window, trying to spot the attackers. She saw movement. Figures in dark armor moving between buildings. Not Vordian. The body structure was wrong. Jake, she said, look at how they move. He did, his expression darkening. Human. What? Kira stared. Humans are attacking us? Mercenaries, probably, Jake said. Someone hired them to take this colony. Make it look like Vortians. Why? To restart the war, Jake realized. If it looks like Vortians attacked a Zalthari colony, it would force both our species back into conflict. Before Kira could respond, an explosion rocked the building. The attackers had brought heavy weapons. They're not trying to capture us, Jake said. They're trying to kill everyone, so there are no witnesses. Another explosion. The building structure groaned. We can't stay here, the tactical officer said. Building won't survive another hit like that. Jake's mind raced, calculating options. They were pinned down, outnumbered, cut off from support. A losing situation, unless... He looked at Kira. How fast can you run? Fast enough, she said, understanding his implication. What do you need? A distraction. I'm going to flank them. Hit their heavy weapons team. But they'll see me coming, unless their attention is elsewhere. So I draw their fire, Kira said. It's dangerous. Everything's dangerous. She quoted his earlier words back at him. What's the plan? Jake outlined it quickly. Kira would exit through the building's back entrance, move to a position that would draw the attackers' attention. While they focused on her, Jake and his team would circle around, take out the heavy weapons, even the odds. Give me 2 minutes head start, Jake said. Kira nodded. Jake kissed her quickly. You too. She moved through the building, her heart's pounding but her mind clear. This was it. Everything she'd trained for. Time to prove she was more than just a political symbol. She exited the back. Moved through the streets using cover Jake had taught her to exploit. The attackers were focused on the building. Assuming everyone was still inside, Kira reached her position, took a deep breath, and stepped into the open. Hey! She shouted in standard. Looking for me? 40 weapons turned in her direction. Kira Han. Energy bolts chased her through the streets. She moved like Jake had taught her. Unpredictable. Changing direction. Using cover. The attackers followed, focusing fire on the alien princess, which meant they didn't see Jake until too late. He came from their flank with 15 soldiers, weapons firing with precision. The heavy weapons team went down in seconds. Then Jake's team was among them. Close combat. Using human speed and ferocity to devastating effect. Kira saw her opening and reverse direction, running back toward the fight. She came at the attackers from behind, catching 3 by surprise. Her combat training took over, moves flowing instinctively. She disarmed one, broke another's arm, dropped a third with a strike to the throat. The battle turned quickly after that. Caught between Jake's team and Kira, the attackers' advantage evaporated. Some tried to surrender. Others fought to the end. When the shooting stopped, 32 mercenaries lay dead or captured. Jake's team had taken 7 more casualties, but they'd won. Jake found Kira in the aftermath, checking her for injuries. You okay? I'm fine, she said. That was terrifying and exhilarating, and I never want to do it again, except I kind of do? He laughed despite the situation. Yeah, combat's like that. They secured the prisoners, restored communications. Support arrived within the hour, along with intelligence teams to investigate. The truth came out quickly. A fringe group within the Zalthari Council, opposed to the alliance, had hired human mercenaries to attack the colony. They'd planned to frame the Vortians, restart the war, break the alliance. It had nearly worked. The conspirators were arrested, tried, convicted. The incident became known as the Xalthar betrayal, a reminder that threats to peace could come from within, but it also proved something important. Kira had fought beside human soldiers, had held her own in combat, had helped turn the tide. She wasn't just a symbol anymore. She was a warrior in her own right. News coverage of the battle showed her fighting, showed her courage. The galaxy saw an alien princess who had truly become part of humanity's warrior culture. The Xalthari Council formally apologized, purged the conspirators from their ranks. They also did something unprecedented. They awarded Kira a military commendation, recognizing her actions in defending Xalthari colonists. She was the first royal family member to receive such an honor in 3,000 years. Jake and Kira returned to Earth to more celebrations, more ceremonies. But in quiet moments, they talked about what had happened. I was terrified, Kira admitted one evening. When those weapons were tracking me, when I was running, I thought I was going to die. But you didn't, Jake said. You trusted your training, made smart decisions, survived. Because of what you taught me. I taught you techniques, Jake corrected. The courage to use them? That was all you. Kira leaned against him, feeling safe in a way she'd never expected. This strange human warrior who had become her husband, her teacher, her partner. What happens now? She asked. We keep building, Jake said. Keep strengthening the alliance. Keep proving that different species can work together. Think it'll last? If we fight for it, Jake said. Peace isn't passive. It's something you defend every day. Kira understood. They'd both become symbols, yes, but more than that, they'd become guardians, protectors of something fragile and precious, and they would continue that work, together, for as long as they had. The next threat came from an unexpected direction. Not violence this time, but politics. A faction within human government began pushing for military expansion. They argued that humanity's demonstrated superiority in combat meant they should take a more active role in galactic affairs. Protection through dominance. Jake was called to testify before the Human Council to speak on military policy. Kira accompanied him, both of them understanding what was at stake. The hearing room was packed. Politicians, military officers, media representatives. Kira sat in the gallery, while Jake took his position at the witness stand. Colonel Morrison, the lead counselor, began. Your record speaks for itself. You've won every engagement you've been part of. Would you agree that humanity has military superiority over most known species? In certain contexts, yes, Jake answered carefully. Then, wouldn't it make sense to leverage that superiority? To take a more active leadership role in galactic security? Jake was quiet for a moment. Then he said, No. The room erupted in whispers. Could you elaborate? The counselor asked. Military superiority doesn't grant moral authority, Jake said. We're good at war because we had to be. Because our history was violent. Because we nearly destroyed ourselves multiple times. That's not something to celebrate. But surely our capabilities mean we have a responsibility. Our responsibility is to use those capabilities in defense, not conquest, Jake interrupted. The moment we start using our strength to dominate, instead of protect, we become the next empire that needs to be stopped. He gestured to Kira in the gallery. I married Princess Kira to help secure peace, not because I saw her people as beneath us, or as subjects to be protected, as equals, partners. That's what the alliance should be about. Some would argue that's naive, another counselor said. That power creates a natural hierarchy. Some argued that during the Vordian War too, Jake replied. They said we should enslave the Vordians after we won. Use them as labor. Subjugate them. We chose differently. We chose to end the conflict without becoming monsters ourselves. That's what separates us from the empires we fought. The hearing continued for hours. Jake faced hostile questions, accusations of being soft, of not understanding real politique. He answered each one calmly, firmly, never backing down from his position. When it finally ended, Kira met him outside the chamber. You were magnificent, she said. I was honest, Jake replied. It helped, Kira assured him. People heard you, heard what the alliance really means. The vote came 3 days later. The expansion proposal was defeated, narrowly. Jake's testimony had swayed enough counselors to tip the balance. Humanity would remain a defensive power, not an imperial one. Jake and Kira celebrated quietly that night, understanding how close things had come. "Do you ever wonder if you're fighting the wrong battle?" Kira asked. "You're a warrior, trying to prevent war. Isn't that contradictory?" "Maybe," Jake said, "but the best warriors understand the cost of violence. We're the ones who should advocate loudest for peace, because we know exactly what war destroys." "Speaking from experience?" Jake nodded. "I've seen good people die for bad reasons. Seen civilizations burn. I don't want that to be humanity's legacy." "It won't be," Kira said firmly. They stood together on their balcony, looking out over Earth's night sky. Somewhere, out there, other species were watching humanity, wondering what they would become. Jake and Kira were determined to help shape that future. One of partnership, not domination. One where strength served peace instead of undermining it. It wouldn't be easy. There would always be those who saw power as something to be used, who believed might made right. But as long as there were voices arguing for a better way, there was hope. And hope, Kira had learned, was worth fighting for. The year that followed brought new challenges and new victories. Kira established a training program, teaching Zalthari soldiers human combat techniques. The program was controversial at first, seen by some as cultural contamination. But when the first graduates returned home as highly capable warriors, criticism faded. Jake took on a new role, advising the Human Council on alien relations. He used his position to advocate for cooperation, for shared defense initiatives, for cultural exchange programs. Together, they became the face of the alliance. Where they went, peace followed, but they never forgot the cost. Never forgot that peace was fragile, that it required constant vigilance and effort. They trained together every morning, keeping skills sharp, attended diplomatic functions every evening, strengthening bonds between species. And in the quiet moments between, they built a life together. Real, chosen, theirs. One evening, exactly 1 year after the attack on their estate, Kira found Jake in the training room. He was alone, moving through kata. His movements precise and beautiful. She watched for a while, appreciating the grace he brought to violence, the control he maintained even in practice. When he finished, she joined him on the mat. "Remember when you first started teaching me?" she asked. "I was terrible," Jake smiled. "You were eager. There's a difference." "I was scared," Kira corrected. "Scared of being helpless. Scared of letting you down." "You've never let me down," Jake said seriously. "Not once." "You've never let me down either," Kira replied. "When I came here, I thought I was sacrificing myself for peace. But you gave me something I didn't expect." "What's that?" "Choice," Kira said. "You could have demanded things from me, used our marriage for political gain. Instead, you gave me freedom to become who I wanted to be." "Because that's what partners do," Jake said. "They help each other grow." Kira moved closer, took his hand. "I love you. Not because we're married. Not because of the alliance. Because of who you are. A warrior who fights for peace. A strong person who treats others with kindness. My husband, my teacher, my best friend." Jake pulled her close. "I love you too. You came here as a stranger. Became the most important person in my life. You're brave, brilliant, stubborn as hell. Everything I could have hoped for, and more." They kissed, holding each other in the quiet training room. Two warriors, finding peace in each other. Outside, the galaxy continued turning. Threats still existed. Challenges remained. But Jake and Kira faced them together, stronger as a team than either could be alone. The marriage that began as a political necessity had become something real, something powerful. A symbol that different species could not just coexist, but genuinely connect. And perhaps that was the greatest victory of all. Not the battles won or enemies defeated, but the bonds forged. The proof that peace was possible. That understanding could bridge any divide. Jake and Kira were living proof. A human warrior and a Zalthari princess, building a future together. One training session at a time. One diplomatic function at a time. One day at a time. Their story wasn't over. New challenges would come. New battles would be fought. But they would face everything together. Partners in every sense. And that made all the difference.